working at Protocol Labs on things like gateways. And this is a status update of where we are with the gateway as a part of the stack, as a part of showing up in places that Dietrich described, being part of the tool set that developers can use. And this is designed to be a short lightning talk. So first, how to think about gateways. We will not go too deep, but kind of setting up the mental model. What are the two modes of operation that are available this year? What are recent improvements that landed since we've talked about gateways in Iceland, and what is the ongoing work and what the future holds. In just a quick refresher, the gateway follows the mantra that no API is the best API. We don't have any special schemas. You have a simple path, which is the same as content path, request CID, get data back. And it's designed to be a vendor-agnostic generic HTTP interface for IPFS. You may have seen API v0 endpoints. Those are Kubo RPC endpoints specific to the oldest implementation, which has a very big surface. The gateway is vendor-agnostic. It's a thing that implementations can follow to test interop, to provide the generic interface that looks the same no matter what implementation is used on the backend. And over time, we identified different gateway types. So we have a very simple deserialized path gateways, which were the very first ones. This year, we've added a version that allows you to do trustless verifiable retrieval of CIDs and DAGs. And for the use in web context, web browsers, web apps, we have subdomains and DNS link gateways, which have the common thing that they follow a web security model that isolates each root CID from each other through by providing it a unique origin. And more details in the specs, because we have specifications. And specifications were designed to be read by gateway implementers. So if you are interested in implementing IPFS, and you don't want to implement hundreds of commands present in existing implementations, and you want something very simple, I think providing the gateway interface is a good place to start playing with IPFS ecosystem, because you can now provide a drop-in replacement for existing integration points. And there are two modes of operation right now, which I would like to go over. The default one that has been around for multiple years is requesting for a specific CID or a path and getting deserialized user data back. So when you make a request to the gateway, the end user, the user agent, is in control how much trust and work is delegated to the HTTP gateway. Historically, there was only one option. You delegate everything to the gateway. It does all IPFS things and all the content addressing things. But this year, we have ability to choose, and user agent is able to opt in to get a verifiable retrieval from gateway through either HTTP header with a content type, which is registered at IANA, or a query parameter. Excuse me. And just to maybe like illustrate the difference, the difference is where the deserialization of a DAG happens. So the old default, if it happens on gateway, that means all the hashes are verified on the gateway. So that's no work for the client, maybe better for your battery, but at the same time, you delegate all the trust to the gateway, that the gateway return the bits that you requested through a CID. It's fine if it's a node you trust. It's fine if it's node on your local machine or machine under your control. But at the same time, now there's a choice to deserialize DAG on the client. And that means less work for a gateway, maybe less expensive to run a gateway like that. That's more work on the client, but there's a huge win that enables use of gateways are kind of like a dump pipes. so you are able to use them without having to trust them. You can use third-party gateways which are outside of your control without risking man in the middle, because the hash verification happens on the client. And for that distinction, we have user documentation, how to use gateway. With that in mind, so there's the trust model for both full delegation and partial delegation to gateway is described there, fetching blocks and cars examples. So I'll just leave it at that and move to recent improvements around gateways. The main one, trustless verifiable retrieval, it shipped a while ago in Kubo 13, but I've put it here because we finally see the rollout on the public gateways, reaching the point when light clients have multiple choices. That dream that being able to use random public gateway to retrieve content address data and verify hashes locally, I believe is finally reaching a point of practicality. We have specs for this, and we are planning to do similar trustless verifiable retrieval of IPNS namespace, being able to fetch IPNS record and verify it on the client, and that will close the gap. Right now, you can fetch immutable data, but soon it will be also possible for mutable cryptographic identifiers. And this is a current state from yesterday, I believe. More and more public gateways are providing support for block and car responses, which is really good and shows that people eventually update their software. Very cool thing that we landed this year was landing redirect file support. So this one is a feature of web gateways, which are a subset of gateways which do full deserialization. And you can think about them as a way of using IPFS as a part of your Web 2 infrastructure, but still reaping some benefits or from content addressing for data portability. So this feature shipped in Kubo 16. There are specifications and there's a user documentation, but it's a well-known format of specifying redirects. But the cool thing is this feature enables, makes website hosting, switching website hosting to IPFS a bit easier, because now you are able to host single-page applications without any additional Nginx rules in front of your IPFS gateway. You are able to migrate websites to IPFS and keep all the links working correctly, and you can specify custom error pages for a situation when a page got removed. And it's a good demonstration how IPIP, Interplanetary Improvement Proposal process, works for improving gateway specifications. The IPIP document also includes test fixtures, so if you are curious how what's the full functionality, examples are there. And finally, what's the near future? So we have ongoing work, which I think it's very important for unlocking additional use cases. So the first one is a small one. It's just closing a UX gap. It's possible right now. When you want to retrieve a full directory, you either get HTML listing and you need to fetch every item one by one, or you fetch entire thing through like verifiable retrieval as a single car archive. But it was not possible to get like the serialized tree in a single take. Now it's possible. So you will be able to run a local gateway curl request a tar for a directory from a local gateway and pipe that untar, and that will help with integrating IPFS with some workflows. But the second one is really, really important because it's adding support for codecs other than UnixFS to the gateway. And that means adding support for data structures beyond files and directories. Being able to load DAG.json or DAG.cbor data structures is not possible right now. You can traverse to DAG.cbor document, but if the DAG-CBOR CID is the last one on your path, the gateway will refuse because it's not a file. We registered content type at IANA for DAG-CBOR and DAG-JSON earlier this month, I believe. They got accepted. And we will be shipping support for DAG-JSON and DAG-CBOR on gateways in a deserialized form, somewhere between Kubo 17 and 18. And that will enable web application developers to consume content address data in a form that allows linking documents and traversing links between documents. More about that, I guess, in the next presentation, but it's something I encourage people to look forward to. And kind of like more distant improvements, but still on the things that we want to do. Verifiable IPNS, kind of similar to what we have right now for blocks and cars. We want to be able to retrieve IPNS signed IPNS record and let light client to verify it, and then have a confidence in the CID that was published in that record. Removing the need for trusting gateways with IPNS resolution as well. For things like light clients that are essentially web browsers or streaming videos or bigger files, we need to improve performance of car responses, namely removing the need for a light client to keep a block store, to keep all the blocks in memory because you don't know, maybe the single block is used multiple times. Adding a special, refining the way we return car streams will make it easier and less expensive to implement those clients. We also want to add the ability to fetch a sub-resource of a web page without going multiple round trips for each element on the path. Right now, you need to fetch all the parents, and then you request the final file as a single car request. We could include those additional blocks. Adding IPLD support is ongoing. DAG-JSON, DAG-CBOR. We also are discussing adding a separate IPLD namespace for more advanced things, like data layouts and custom schemas. And in general, going beyond just retrieval. If we want gateway to be vendor-agnostic data onboarding API, then we need to agree on a specification around post and put. And if we have that, we could go even further and have a very efficient DAG addition, DAG edits using IPLD path spec, which is, we have a specification for this. It's just a matter of figuring out a way that would make sense for exposing this on gateway. And that's it. That's a very brief update on the gateway status for this quarter. We have docs for end users who want to talk to gateway, for developers who want to integrate gateway within their stack. And we have specifications for people who would who are IPFS implementers, developers, or maybe like people who want to go deeper and understand the full scope that goes into implementing gateway. But that's it. Thank you.